This week, Pipistrel rolls out a brand new training airplane. Hawker Beechcraft reveals its get out of bankruptcy plans, and Piper says its European sales are strong so far this year. I'm Ashley Hale. Welcome to Airborne on Aero TV. Well, Pipistrel is proving itself to be an amazing company again and again. Just a couple of weeks after introducing its new four-place hybrid Panthera airplane, Pipistrel has taken the wraps off its brand new Alpha trainer, which, as the name suggests, is designed as a primary training aircraft. On its website, Pipistrel says that the new airplane is designed for light sport aircraft flying schools in markets and countries which have the FAA LSA categories. The Pipistrel Alpha trainer is fitted with the Rotax 912 80 horsepower engine. The airframe is a composite two-seat side-by-side high wing. And like all Pipistrel aircraft, the Alpha demonstrates very frugal fuel consumption, averaging 3.4 gallons per hour at cruise and only 2.1 gallons per hour in the pattern for such exercises as touch and goes. In a flight test review forwarded to ANN by Pipistrel, the company says that the new airplane is based on the Virus SW. The Pipistrel Alpha trainer shares the same fuselage shape and a very similar wing design to the Virus SW. The wingspan of 34.5 feet is slightly less than a Cessna 172, so hangar space should not be a problem. The Rotax 80 horsepower engine provides more than adequate performance, swinging the fixed-pitch wooden Pipistrel propeller. The Pipistrel Alpha trainer has a very robust undercarriage. While nothing is unbreakable, Pipistrel says this configuration is certainly close and should endure the rigors of flight training over the years. The $85,000 base price includes a radio, GPS, transponder, and ballistic parachute system. Hawker Beechcraft has announced it has reached an agreement with a significant number of its senior secured lenders and senior bondholders on the terms of a financial restructuring plan that will strengthen the company for the future and eliminate approximately $2.5 billion in debt and approximately $125 million of annual cash interest expense. To implement the terms of the prearranged restructuring expeditiously, Hawker Beechcraft and certain of its subsidiaries have filed voluntary petitions under Chapter 11 of the United States Bankruptcy Code and the U.S. Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of New York. The terms of the prearranged restructuring agreement will take effect when the company's reorganization plan is confirmed by the court and the Chapter 11 case is concluded. As part of the prearranged restructuring, Hawker Beechcraft obtained a commitment for $400 million in debtor in possession financing, which will enable it to continue paying employees, suppliers, vendors, and others in the normal course of business. The company says it's operating normally. It says it will fill all of its orders and plans to continue work on its announced sale of T6C Plus trainers for Mexico. The company is also still committed to making a bid for the light air support aircraft for the U.S. Air Force. Piper aircraft dealers in Europe have noted a sales trend toward new, more fuel-efficient business aircraft. A trend that seems to be playing right into Piper's product line based on recent strong sales performance. We're seeing more buyers opt for new, more fuel-efficient aircraft as they downsize from twin-engine aircraft, said Peter Winters, general manager of Winters Aviation with Piper's sales responsibility in France and Belgium. At the same time, they are keeping their cabin class preferences intact with the single-engine Piper Meridian and Piper Mirage. They are just flying more efficiently now in response to changes in aviation fuel prices. Earlier in 2012, Piper delivered 3 new Piper Meridian turboprops into France and a Piper Mirage pressurized single in Switzerland. Additionally, the company has 5 more M-Class single-engine aircraft set for delivery to retail customers in Europe this year. Piper's international aircraft deliveries continue to outpace those in the United States, led by the vigorous sales in Europe. You're watching Airborne. More in a moment.
Since its inception, Redbird Flight Simulations has been dedicated to developing new training technologies and processes in an ongoing effort to make aviation safer, more affordable, and more accessible.
We're using technology to make this kind of training accessible to all flight schools of all sizes and all budgets, and to democratize flying in general, because we make this kind of training more accessible to people.
For more information about Redbird Flight Simulations, as well as Redbird's new Skyport, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com or www.redbirdskyport.com.
Welcome back. The NTSB is planning a two-day forum focused on safety issues related to general aviation on June 19th and 20th in Washington, D.C. The event, General Aviation Safety Climbing to the Next Level, will be chaired by NTSB Chairman Deborah Hersman, and all 5 board members will participate. Each year, hundreds of people are killed in general aviation crashes and thousands more are injured, said Chairman Hersman. Tragically, the circumstances leading to these accidents are often repeated over and over year after year. If we're going to prevent future fatalities and injuries, these common causes must be addressed. Among the key safety issues the forum will address are pilot training and performance, pilot access to and use of weather-related information, and aircraft design and certification. Panelists participating in the forum will represent industry, government, academia, and professional associations. A detailed agenda and a list of participants will be released closer to the date of the event. The event will be webcast and we'll keep you updated. In a very carefully worded statement on Facebook, Kyle Franklin has apparently disassociated himself from the Moonlight Fund, which was established after the death of his wife Amanda following a tragic accident at an air show last year. The post reads simply, quote, Kyle Franklin and Franklin's Flying Circus are no longer affiliated with in any way and cannot support nor endorse the Moonlight Fund Incorporated due to deep philosophical disagreements over the handling of donated funds. A cease and desist order has been sent in regards to Amanda's wings. The Moonlight Fund established Amanda's wings in order to help Kyle recover from the accident, as well as to contribute funds to other female burn survivors. According to their site, the Moonlight Fund provides 24/7 assistance to burn survivors and their family members, as well as families who have lost a loved one to a burn injury. When contacted by ANN, Moonlight Fund spokeswoman Celia Belt seemed to suggest that any difficulties were not with her organization, but involved an argument, quote, actually more than an argument, between Kyle Franklin and his brother-in-law, Matt Youngkin, also an accomplished airshow pilot. Belt also asserted that, quote, Kyle wants more than we took in for him, end quote, but refused to divulge the amounts involved and insisted that Kyle had been well cared for. When ANN contacted Matt Youngkin about Belt's assertion of a fight between he and Kyle, Matt simply responded that, quote, we're still family and we're still working together. Aspen Avionics has joined forces with software giant Microsoft. The two companies last week entered into a patent licensing agreement that gives Aspen broad access to the latest Extended File Allocation Table, or exFAT. exFAT is a modern file system for Microsoft that facilitates large files for audiovisual media. It makes it easy to swap data between desktop PCs and other electronic devices. The agreement is the latest forged by Microsoft for exFAT and the first in the avionics and commercial sector. exFAT greatly expands the size of files that flash memory devices can handle, as much as 5 times over the previous technology. It also greatly increases the speed with which those files can be accessed. Chart and other software updates for Aspen's Evolution GA glass panels are delivered by flash devices, which certainly makes the agreement make sense. Elsewhere on the navigation front, Garmin announced last week that it has delivered over 100 million, yes, that's 100 million, navigation devices for everything ranging from airplanes to joggers. That milestone was reached in under 25 years. The company was founded in 1988 and sold its first GPS-enabled device in 1991. It was bad news and good news for SpaceX this week, as they had to postpone their upcoming launch to ISS, but made progress towards carrying people into space. Tom Patton has that story.
SpaceX said it was pushing back its COTS 2 and 3 demonstration launch to May 19th, while its own and NASA scientists evaluate the computer code which controlled the launch. The company is preparing its second Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, or COTS demonstration, to show that private industry can build and launch spacecraft on regular cargo resupply missions to the station. The rocket and spacecraft will have about 1,200 pounds of supplies on board for the 6 astronauts and cosmonauts working on the space station. Mission plans call for an extensive set of tests in space, requiring the Dragon spacecraft to show that it can move precisely in orbit and approach the space station carefully. Only after these tests are successful will the spacecraft be allowed to approach the orbiting laboratory close enough to be grappled and berthed by the station's robotic arm. The Dragon capsule is scheduled to operate in space for about 3 weeks, including the first rendezvous and berthing with the space station by a commercial spacecraft. Looking forward to manned missions, SpaceX has finished an important evaluation of a prototype Dragon spacecraft designed to carry people into orbit. The key milestone is part of SpaceX's partnership with NASA under the Funded Space Act agreement to advance the design of new crew transportation vehicles. The primary goal of the tests was to determine whether the layout will allow astronauts to maneuver effectively within the vehicle. Several veteran Space Shuttle astronauts and NASA engineers conducted the evaluation during a pair of 2-day-long reviews at SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California. It included entering and exiting Dragon under normal and emergency scenarios. They also performed reach and visibility evaluations. This is the 7th of 10 milestones SpaceX must reach under the CC Dev 2 agreement. For Airborne, I'm Tom Patton.
In just a moment, this week's Barnstorming Commentary has a few words to say about the state of aviation journalism. I'm Ashley Hale, and you're Airborne on Aero TV.
Avidyne is the brand of choice for pilots who want innovative, easy-to-use avionics. And the new IFD 540 GPS Navcom sets a new standard for simplicity in communication and LPV navigation. As a slide-in replacement for existing 530 series navigators, and with a highly intuitive touchscreen control, the IFD 540 makes it much easier to access the information you want when you want it, reducing head-down time and making flying more enjoyable. Finally, you have a choice, and the choice is easy. Avidyne.
Thanks for joining us. It's time for this week's Barnstorming Commentary. As you've seen and read, ANN has tackled some pretty hard stories this week, just as it has throughout its entire lifetime. But it's kind of lonely out there in the hard journalism world, especially where aviation is concerned. ANN's resident troublemaker, Jim Campbell, explains.
Thanks, Ashley. Hi, folks. Hope you're having a better week than some of aviation's been having. As you may have noticed, we've had a number of hard stories to do this week, including one that continues off the series of stories we've done involving David G. Riggs, a convicted con man and felon who unfortunately has turned his attention to aviation or aviators time and time again. Having previously been implicated in making what appears to be a false complaint against one of his enemies via the FAA hotline, and another one mysteriously and anonymously popping up against the same guy, for which the FAA unfortunately went ahead and suspended the guy's ticket. I'm happy to say that there was a meeting on Tuesday that appears to be a path to resolution. The FAA is aware of some of the problems and seems to be interested in trying to find a solution, while at the same time, and don't get me wrong, we agree with them, there is extraordinary value and a need for the safety hotline. We just want to find a way for it not to be abused, and for the FAA to go off half-cocked the minute they think they have a problem or think they have a complaint without any verification or substantiation. It was a hard story to do, but it's one of many hard stories that we do day in and day out. For those of you who followed me, I've kind of got a rough rep. I mean, I've been a troublemaker since day one. I mean, we don't have to tell you that much about when we took on the Bob Hoover fight between my book and what I was doing with my magazines at the time, the Mini 500 debacle, a number of situations where people paid for products and they didn't get, and some of the scam artists out there. I've got a number of stories like that right now that we're working on. And the problem is this, the biggest problem is this, not the fact that we have these kind of things out there, we always will, but the fact that for some reason or another we seem to be the only ones doing the stories. And there's something desperately wrong with that. Now, I'm either too big a pain in the ass and too big a troublemaker and just, finding this stuff no matter what, or maybe this stuff's getting ignored. And the scary part, the people I talk to, folks from throughout the industry, kind of agree. There isn't a whole lot of hard journalism being done in aviation. We're the only ones doing it with any regularity, which is not to say it doesn't get done at all. There are fine journalists out there, and when they're allowed to do their job, it's an amazing thing to see. But right now, here we are, we've got problems. Running away from problems, trying to hide problems is not the way to solve them. And if we're going to transform aviation, we've got to be honest with ourselves, what's right, what's wrong, fix what's wrong, celebrate what's right, and go forward. And right now, we're not doing that. Look, I'm willing to do whatever I have to do. We take a hell of a lot of flack for doing the hard stories. I've already gotten threatened over some recent stuff. You know what kind of trouble we have with the GA manufacturer doesn't like my stories. And it's cost us dearly. But the fact of the matter is we can look ourselves in the mirror each morning and realize that we're doing our very best. And we want to do our very best for you. But how do we get our best out of the rest of aviation? And that's the thought I want to leave you with. We're happy to do the hard stories, but we'd sure like to have some company. What do you think? For the Aero-News Network, Airborne, and Aero TV, I'm Jim Campbell. Now, go fly something. See you later.
The FAA has released the EAA AirVenture Oshkosh 2012 Notice to Airmen, available now for download from the agency. The NOTAM, which is in effect from 6 a.m. Friday, July 20th through noon on Monday, July 30th, outlines procedures for the many types of aircraft that fly to Oshkosh for the event, as well as aircraft that land and depart at nearby airports. It was designed by the FAA in partnership with the EAA to assist pilots in their flight planning and is required reading if you're flying your aircraft to AirVenture. While the overall procedure is similar to past years, there are some noteworthy changes compared to the 2011 version. Some of those changes include revised IFR arrival and departure routings. Sheboygan has been added to the IFR Special Traffic Management Program, revised VFR arrival procedures on pages 9 through 10, and updated airport information and telephone numbers. The NOTAMs is available for download on the FAA NOTAM website. Speaking of Oshkosh, a new airplane, which has already been successful in Europe, will make its North American debut at EAA's big show this summer. In answer to increasing interest from the North American market, Lisa Airplanes will unveil the Akoya, its high-end amphibious skyplane, at AirVenture 2012. Lisa Airplanes called the Akoya an unprecedented light airplane for the American market. It has a unique undercarriage, which allows the airplane to land on pavement, grass, water, or snow. Lisa Airplanes says the Akoya combines the qualities of a type-certificated aircraft while fulfilling the SLSA regulations. China's evolving influence on GA has grown yet again. A strategic partnership has been signed between Cessna Aircraft Company, the China Aviation Industry General Aircraft Company Limited, Kaiga, and the Shijiazhuan Municipal Government. This agreement is a progression stemming from the strategic framework that Cessna entered into with Kaiga's parent company, Aviation Industry Corporation of China, in March 2012. Specifically, this next step from a cooperation framework for an eventual joint venture whose purpose will be the final assembly, sales, and customer support for the Cessna Caravan in China for the Chinese market. Cessna and Kaiga's plans include locating the joint venture's operations at the Kaiga facility in Shijiazhuan to conduct final assembly, painting, testing, interior installation, customization, flight testing, and delivery of the Cessna Caravan to buyers in China. Cessna says that it has seen interest for the Caravan for use in commuter aviation fleets, as well as China's growing tourist and sightseeing businesses. In an interview aired Sunday by the CBS News magazine 60 Minutes, two pilots who have refused to fly the F-22 due to concerns about the oxygen system spoke out about their concerns. The pilots are risking their careers by refusing to fly the airplanes. The two pilots, Major Jeremy Gordon and Captain Josh Wilson, received protection as whistleblowers from Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who also appeared on the program. CBS reports that both men stopped flying the Raptor in January. Major Gordon told Leslie Stahl that he had, quote, no control over what's coming through that tube attached to his oxygen mask. He said there might be a point when he might not be in control while he's flying, but asked directly by Stahl if he thought the airplane was safe, he said he was not comfortable answering that question, but he did say he was also not comfortable flying the F-22. General Mike Hostage, commander of Air Combat Command, said prior to the interview's airing that he understands there are still concerns about the aircraft. However, he explained there's always a certain amount of risk involved, and the risk must be balanced with the requirement for the capability. Hostage said, if the Air Force determines that the risk has gone to a level where we just can't accept it, we either reduce that risk or eliminate it. But right now, quote, we believe that risk, although it's not as low as we would like it, is low enough to safely operate the airplane at the current tempo, end quote. Meanwhile, the 195th and last F-22 Raptor was delivered to U.S. Air Force leadership in a ceremony held Wednesday at the Lockheed Martin Aeronautics site in Marietta, Georgia. With this delivery, the U.S. Air Force now possesses the world's only fifth-generation stealth fighter aircraft fleet in the world. This final Raptor joins a U.S. Air Force fleet of 187 operational F-22s and will join other F-22s in the Air Force's third wing at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. In all, Lockheed Martin delivered 195 F-22s to the Air Force beginning in 1997, with 8 Raptors used as test aircraft. Each week, we share with you a sample of an online video one of our viewers thought was especially entertaining. We call it AVW, the Aero Video of the Week. This week, it's extreme flying, Alaska style. It's a montage of off-airport landings made by some pretty fearless Alaska bush pilots. To find this video, go to YouTube and search for Alaska bush pilots are the best. The full video runs just under 1 minute in length. And if you have a suggestion for a future Aero Video of the Week, you can send us a link to news-spy@aero-news.net. The government is serious about the TFR it is putting in place over Chicago May 19th and 20th for the NATO summit. The NOTAM that was published by the FAA said that, quote, the United States government may use deadly force against the airborne aircraft if it is determined that the aircraft poses an imminent security threat. Be advised that non-compliance with the published NOTAM may result in the use of force. Of course, shooting a plane down is not the only option. Lesser violations may result in civil penalties up to the suspension of airman certificates, as well as criminal charges. The only aircraft allowed within the protected airspace will be scheduled commercial passenger and cargo carriers, police and military planes supporting the Secret Service. So if you're planning to fly near Chicago later this month, check those NOTAMs really carefully. Get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. And join us again next week for another edition of Airborne here on Aero TV. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching. See you next week.